Guys, we're back for another exciting episode of the hashtag Wednesday Match Play. And before we jump into tonight's guest, who I am extremely excited to have on the show, a guy that 6 months ago I didn't know existed, and now I'm obsessed with this podcast. He's got, don't tell anybody, but I think he might have better guests than we have here on the hashtag Wednesday Match Play. But I'm going to up the game a little bit to get on his level. But before we get started, earlier today, I took part in a non-golf related event. It was at a golf club. It was a Tiburon Golf Club. The hashtag One Chip Challenge. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. It is the hottest tortilla chip in the world, and it's literally like, my chip was tiny, made with the hottest pepper in the world, the Carolina Reaper. It's about 2.8 million Scoville unit, and if you don't know what that scale means, look it up. It's hot. Long story short, we had milk, we had ice cream, and I sweat so bad for 45 minutes, and I'm not joking. My ears and my neck were sweating. It was ridiculous, but it was fun. I got through it. I lasted. We had about 55 people there watching, cheering us on. It was fun. 2 of the 8 people that took the challenge didn't keep it down, ended up losing their lunch, so to speak, and I was able to make it through, but it was fun. It was an awesome challenge. Google it, go to YouTube, check it out, the hashtag One Chip Challenge. Haven't seen any golfers do it yet. Shaquille O'Neal did it the other night, and it was pretty funny because he said he wasn't going to make a face. He eats the chip, and then you see him sweating, and it's fun. So look up those videos. It's fun. I was excited to do it. It's extremely rare to get the chip. We ended up getting 10 of them, and we had an event here at Tiburon today. It was fun. Thank you to Guy Clark and Raphael from Where to Eat 239. They made that happen. So it was such a big deal, actually. Naples Daily News was there. They live streamed it to Facebook, and they even wrote an article about it. So I kind of feel like a little bit of a celebrity right now. So let me ride that. I've got a big head, so let's just reel that back in for tonight's guest. But tonight's episode of the hashtag Wednesday Match Play, presented by Eat Sleep Golf, it's going to be interesting because this is a podcast, and we're going to be interviewing a guy that does a podcast. And I'm excited about that for a couple of reasons. One, because he has some incredible guests, but the dude knows golf. He likes golf. He's Canadian, so the team at Eat Sleep Golf can relate to that. So versus me trying to explain what this is all about, the focus tonight is the say that 5 times real fast. The ModGolf Podcast. That is very hard to say. Colin Weston is with us from the ModGolf Podcast. Welcome to the hashtag Wednesday Match Play.
Ricky, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So let's just kick things off. How did this podcast get started? What was your motivation? Like, you're only about 22, 25 episodes in. Kind of, do you have a day job too? Like, give us the elevator pitch of who you are, what you do, and what this podcast is all about.
I will. So I guess I'll give you a quick backstory here. We only have 30 minutes, so I'll be quick here. I am an architect, worked mostly in my career as a sport architect, Olympic game level, Pan Am Games level stuff. World championship races, that type of thing. Not just the stadium and venue design, but also the experience design for the athletes, for the fans, for everyone that's involved to make the thing happy across the experiential journey of that day that you would have. So that's where I started from. My very good friend and business partner, also an architect that works in the sport realm, him and I just got together 5 years ago. Him and I both have golfed for years together, action sport stuff. He's an Aussie, even though he lives in Canada now. We both snowboard together all the time. We surf together, which is another part of what we're doing in the business. That could be another podcast or another show we can talk about that. That we just looked at after all of our experience over 20 years, showing my age now, 20 years in architecture. We were sitting in a pub, sitting in a bar, a sports bar in Vancouver here about 5 years ago. There was a Red Bull action sport event on one screen, and there was a regular November golf tournament on, not heavy action. And I turned to Philip, and we both love golf. And I said, wouldn't it be cool, the golf there, it's kind of boring. Wouldn't it be cool if you actually just took a couple of holes, 3 holes of the golf, and dropped that in to the action sport, what you see there. And that was actually something called Red Bull Crashed Ice, which is these crazy races in the middle of a city. St. Paul, Minneapolis has one, 100,000 people, lights, music, screaming, awesomeness, and this ice track and people throwing themselves down it. So I said, wouldn't it be cool if you kind of put that right in the middle there instead? So as designers and architects in a pub, in a bar, we ordered a couple more beers, grabbed some napkins and grabbed some pens, and actually started to sketch this thing out over a couple hours. Moving forward quite quickly, because you only have half an hour here. We've been spending the last 4 years basically looking at the major problem that golf has had. Of course, everybody's talking about it, has talked about it, and that's connecting with millennials, making golf younger, making it more fun, making it faster, all the pain points that golf has. We came up with this really cool, awesome thing based on our 20 years of experience in architecture and our love for golf and action sport, and then realized there was this huge problem that needed to be solved. And we like to say that ignorance is our superpower. The fact Philip and I have never been in the golf industry before that, we never had to extract ourselves from it to kind of figure out what could work. So we quite simply looked at all the things that resonate and that are popular in action sport, music, entertainment, fashion and lifestyle, and social integration. And we actually created, best way to describe Rip Links, what we created there is kind of drop it into a city. It could be at Huntington Beach, could be up at a mountain resort like Vail or Whistler up here, and you have a 3-day competition, music, fun, elite level golf. Basically, it's the 16th hole on steroids all the time, if you can imagine that, in Phoenix Open, a good way to imagine it. And if you're familiar with American Ninja Warrior, it kind of has the storyline and kind of the touring aspect and story arc of that. So that's what we came up with. Been developing that for quite a few years. Once again, the whole crazy entrepreneurial journey we've been on as we set our boat to sail on this. Went to the PGA show, met Mark King from Adidas TaylorMade at the time. He had something called Hack Golf, which you may be familiar about. That was 3 or 4 years ago. Turns out the day before they announced this, before we met him, he's chasing us around. We're in our Rip Links trucker hats on and our t-shirts, looking like a couple of overage, skate punks. And he's like, I got to talk to those guys. 15-minute meeting turned into 2 hours with all of his major executives. And he had $5 million sitting there with Hack Golf. Long story short, that didn't go anywhere. Their stock dropped the next week, and all of a sudden, Hack Golf kind of went away. So we got introduced to actually Topgolf a couple months later through some women that were doing a trial event for us. Actually, one woman, Megan Harden, who was actually on Big Break a couple of years ago, and introduced us to Eric Anderson, who actually is the chairman and major investor in Topgolf. So this is about 3.5 years ago. Long story short with this, Ricky, is that with Eric Anderson, he was going to invest in us. He was going to acquire what we were doing. Eventually, we ended up working for them and working with them as design consultants. And if you're familiar with the Added in Orlando, if you're familiar with Topgolf Crush, the mobile event and the stadiums that they have, we actually co-created that and designed that for them and envisioned that. So that's kind of what we do. So combining all this architecture, design, passion for golf, passion for experience design and action sport, we've kind of whacked this all together in a big pot and mixed it up, really when no one else was doing it. You think about it, 4 years ago, Topgolf was just starting out in the sense that they hadn't got major traction yet. They haven't exploded into this juggernaut that they are today. Everyone else that's on my show, as far as all of these entrepreneurs and innovators that are creating things, whether it's 18 Birdies or Next Gen Golf, they didn't exist yet. So golf's going to be in really great shape, but we started doing this a lot earlier than other people and kind of felt the pain. So that is a very long-winded preamble. I got to catch my breath for a second of why we created a podcast. So last summer, I'm a big podcast fan, first of all. So last summer, summer of 2016, I'm listening to a lot of podcasts, and I'm a big fan of startup and entrepreneurial culture, the future of work, the future of this stuff, future of everything. And I listen to these podcasts, and some of them are like massively popular. And being the golf fan and knowing all these people from Eric Anderson all the way down, these people I've met over the last 4 years, these influential people that I've managed to cultivate trust with and become friends with in a lot of cases, I looked at this and I said, you know what? I'm going to take a look at this. So I just did a very simple search on iTunes, sports, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of podcasts, golf, hundreds and hundreds of podcasts. Then I started doing a simple criteria search of future golf, innovation golf, entrepreneur golf, startup golf, zero, nothing. So there was this massive opportunity. There's this gap in the marketplace that no one was talking about these things. There's all these stories out there. So I figured, you know what? I know these people. I love this space. I'm an entrepreneur. I work within the local and the national startup community. So I'm involved in all these different levels of business and golf and the future of it and the innovation side, that I reached out to some of the top golf people I know and some other influential people I know and said, okay, here's the deal, guys. I got to put a podcast together. I'm thinking about doing this. would you come on as a guest, realizing I have a total download possibility of 2? That could be like me and you, and that's it. And I'm media-wise, I'm nobody. And they're like, Colin, really like you, love what you're doing, dude. I'm in. So I got 6 people to say I'm in. So I figured, okay, let's do this as a 12-episode experiment, kind of like the lean startup model with startup. And we do it all the time with what we do, whether it's tech or everything else. So minimum viable product. It's like, okay, I got 6 people in the can. I'll be able to find 6 more as I go, kind of jump out of the plane and design the parachute on the way down, like us entrepreneurs like to do. And it's like, I'll just figure this stuff out as I go. Put it on hold for the winter time because we got really busy with Topgolf. And also, you can see behind me here, I have some surf-inspired stuff here from Encinitas here. We're also in the surf innovation realm. But like I said, we'll talk about that another time. So we got busy with some other stuff. But in January, I started to ramp this up. And what I ended up doing, I forced myself not to chicken out on this. I'm sure when you started your show, Rick, you naturally have that fear. There's that kind of that good fear, but also you kind of like, you can find a million excuses not to do something and to procrastinate. And I managed to, some of the connectivity I have, I got introduced to Keith Pelly, CEO of the European Tour. And what I did, I forced myself to do this. I managed to book Keith on right at the beginning. So my second episode. It's kind of like going to the gym. It's like going to the gym by yourself is hard, but if you got a buddy that's going already, it's like, well, crap, I can't bail, right? Johnny's going to be there. I gotta go. So I kind of did this Jedi mind trick with myself that I managed to lock down Keith Pelly, and then I realized if I bail on him, I will never get a chance to actually have him on my show. So that forced me to actually do the podcast. Did the 12 episodes. We got really good traction, really good feedback. Took a little break for a month in the summer, and now we're into season 2, halfway through that, and already ramping up for season 3 starting in January.
Dude, that is awesome. Like, I think you and I are going to become good friends because we have the same just have to be busy mentality. And when I said elevator pitch, it must be the longest elevator because that was a 12-minute intro, and I love it. That's great. So we only have 47 more questions to get through in the next 15 minutes.
Can I take a nap now? I need a break. Okay, you talk.
See you in 10 minutes. So you mentioned podcasts. You listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a handful, not any sport-related, golf-related. I listen to Andy Stanley, which is an awesome leadership podcast. And I listen to Dave Ramsey almost religiously. And then as much as I'm into golf, I'm into electronic dance music. So I listen to about 13 different EDM podcasts. So What other podcasts do you listen to on a regular basis? What are some of your favorites?
There's a guy named Jacob Morgan that does one called The Future of Work that I listen to. I use that as some inspiration. I'll admit there's certain things, the way he goes about it, that I'm not a big fan of, but the way he structures the show, and he really started from nothing. He got guys like Seth Godin and some, big guys in that space on his show early on. And he's been at it. He's been at it for 3 or 4 years, just like us. He keeps plugging away, and it keeps getting better. And so that's been inspiring to where he's actually got to that. He's now monetized that, and he's looking at it as his business and just speaking engagements, all of that, which I'm starting to do now off of this too, which is great. But ultimately, I did it as a relationship builder for our business with the company called Reviver Sport Entertainment that I'm a co-founder of. So that was really the reason we did it. Another one is Malcolm Gladwell. He's actually got revisionist history. I actually quite like that one. I also listen to a company called Gimlet that actually did the first one they did was Startup, which is quite meta in the first season there. It was basically a startup. And I love that. I love the pacing. I love the craft that they actually have that. I love the storytelling they actually have there too. So those are 3 good examples of ones that I like quite a bit.
So Shane Bacon has been on your show, and it was funny. We were talking about how about half of your guests been on my show too, which is awesome. So let's continue to ping pong that. Like that could be fun. Like, hey, you were on this show, you need to be on that show, and vice versa. I've played golf with Shane. He stands on the wrong side of the ball, but besides that, he is an awesome dude. I spent a lot of time with him when I lived in Scottsdale. What was that show like, and what did you guys talk about?
That was great, actually. Shane's passion for growing the game is stronger than I thought it was. I didn't know a lot about Shane from the background. I actually got introduced to him through Kelly James, the musician. Kelly and I are friends. We've been friends for a couple of years now and spent some time together. And he introduced me to Shane. His love for just getting out there and just playing golf, on whatever terms it is. He sounds like he's about a scratch handicapper. He's a very good golfer. He was a mini tour guy back in the day, or getting to that level. So he's got some game from what I can understand. But he just wants to get out, and even just playing a couple of holes and just getting out there and playing with his buddies that could be like me, an 18 handicap. He's totally fine with that. So he's passionate about growing the game and talking to young people, especially on the amateur level, and what he does there was great to hear. So that was really, really nice to talk to him about.
Now, you just mentioned a musician. I don't know if you know this, like total side gig. I do on my personal blog, not this show, not the podcast. I interview bands and DJs. So I've got over 650 interviews that I've written completely separate from this that I've written with bands and DJs. So when you mention names like Kelly James, like I think we should talk offline and see if we can't figure out how to get some of those guys over to my blog. That's really cool.
I'm sure Kelly would love to. He's an awesome dude. He's an amazing human being. He's a good guy.
So the podcast, how often does it come out? And are you planning ahead? Do you have them recorded? Like, kind of what's your flow like? Like how often they come out, et cetera?
Flow. I'm working on flow, man. I'm working. I would like theoretically to have them in the can a couple of weeks ahead of time, but I find that's a bit of a challenge since I've got all this other stuff going on between what we're doing with Reviver, with Rip Links, what we're doing on the surf side. Basically, we're creating the Top Golf of surf parks with what we've actually designed there. So that takes a little bit of time, if you can imagine. So it takes, I'll be honest right now with my flow. I've got this systematized, if that's actually a word, that I've got about 6 or 7 different compartments and buckets that I fill to do this stuff. But I release something every Tuesday, or I try to. I don't have any sponsors yet, so at least I'm liberated by the fact if I release it on Wednesday, no one's going to yell at me because they're not mad that the podcast isn't out. So there's some freedom from that. But every Tuesday we try to put them out. We're doing them 12 episode seasons. Like I said, we just released episode 8, which was with Eddie Louie, who's the founder and CEO of 18 Birdies, and their mobile app that's really changing the face of golf. The way they've kind of put everything together there, I'm very impressed with what they're doing there. So I range from. That's also the interesting thing. I don't always try to get the big guest, and that's great if I can. But I'm also about telling authentic stories. Like for next week, for example, I got introduced through Steve Mona, who's close to where you are there, CEO of the World Golf Foundation, and also even closer to you, I think this a woman named Clemmy Perry, and she's the executive director of a group called Women of Color Golf, and just connected with her, and it's just such an amazing story of how she's community building. She's like in her early 50s, just started playing golf a couple of years ago after she got laid off from Lockheed Martin. So anyway, that's on next week. So the reason I tell you this, Ricky, is it's interesting that in fact I don't always try to go for the big story. If that reveals itself and I have the opportunity, yeah, I'll go for that. But I really want to tell the best stories I possibly can. A little bit of a kind of a curveball or an expansion that I did in season 2. Season 1, I kept it real simple. It's like, okay, I'm just going to do one-on-one interviews remotely, get the best technology and edit it that I can so it sounds as professional as possible, and we'll kind of stick with that, keep it simple. Season 2, episode 1, I traveled to Thackerville, Oklahoma for the World Long Drive Championship, which is owned by Golf Channel, and I've known those guys for a while and have been involved with them. So I covered that, basically went there for 3 days and just interviewed people, fans, players, creators, just to have the story reveal itself. So that one took about 5 times as long to actually, and it was an hour long. And then last week I was just at the Major Series of Putting, MSOP, in the stadium. I don't know if you heard about that. That's built down in Las Vegas. They're just finishing up now. So with the same thing, and that'll be released in a couple of weeks. So I like to try to keep them 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, but I have to tell you, sometimes I'm scrambling. You get people canceling, and then and then you're quickly recording something and trying to get the thing out. But next season, I like to actually be hopefully a little more prepared than I have with the scramble this year.
Well, I'll tell you, like, same thing with me. When I did the Friday Foursome for 3 years, it was just kind of figuring out who was going to be on each week and, trying to find a guest. And now getting Eat Sleep Golf involved, getting the Golf Radio Network, which is Gabrielle Aloisi's basically syndicated channel that is right. I'm the first episode or first show to join that, and I don't know if he's watching, but that might not be a bad idea to look at you to join that network because of the quality of the guests and the quality of the program. So just you figure it out every week. Like, I got 2 more episodes in this season. You're doing 12 a season. I'm doing 48, which is crazy. So Scott, if you're watching, let's do 12 next season. I'm kidding. You're
a maniac. It's good on you. You make me look like a slacker. You are full on, man. Good. Congratulations to you.
So where can people hear the show? Where can they listen, tune in, subscribe?
Absolutely. Best place to go is actually, you can actually find us on iTunes. If you just go to ModGolf, just put that in there. So the ModGolf Podcast. I know a little tricky for you to say.
ModGolf Podcast.
ModGolf Podcast. So with that on iTunes, a great place to go. Our website, actually, where we have that is modgolf.fireside.fm. Other place, make it nice and easy peasy for everybody. If you actually just go to Twitter or Facebook and just go @ModGolf Podcast, we're right there. Links to the show, you'll find them there. And like I said, we're about 20 episodes in now. I've been really happy with the success of what we've done, and we're really proud of the stories that we've told so far.
So you said curveball earlier. This is kind of that. So I feel like in my space, so I work for Troon, and everyone outside of Troon is trying to fix the game of golf. So the golf game is broken, and that there's something wrong with golf. And from where I sit, not only is the game growing, there's nothing wrong with the game in terms of daily fee play, private club membership growth, etc. So your side of what you're doing is obviously fun and trying to kind of push the limits of, you mentioned Topgolf. In my opinion, Topgolf is not golf. Topgolf is bowling with golf balls. Like, it's not golf, but it's got golf associated with it. That's an F&B operation that you play golf that drives the revenue from the F&B. But that in itself could be an hour conversation. But
indeed it could.
In terms of what you're doing and trying to grow the game and change the game, not necessarily change the game, but to try to, from millennials perspective, I am technically a millennial. I am golf shirt, top button, pants on the golf course.
Yep.
Take your hat off, shake hands. Like, I'm the antithesis. Like, I am not a millennial when it comes to golf. That being said, like, Greg Norman just released the whole thing with speakers on the golf carts and USB chargers and yada, yada, yada. So that all being said, kind of what's your thought on the current scope and health of the game of golf? And what do you honestly think that are you trying to change it, fix it? Or
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess my simple answer to that is, once again, since I was never in the golf industry, I never had to extract myself from that, but I am a passionate sports fan. I played, elite levels of sports, whether it's baseball and hockey and a lot of other sports, basketball, team sports, individual sports. We've actually looked at other sports as validators. And the two that come to mind, and my Aussie friend is the one that introduced to me to this first, was cricket. And I didn't know too much about cricket. For most people in the US, of course, the easiest way to describe cricket, traditional cricket, is a 45-inning baseball game that lasts 5 days. And if it ends in a tie, everybody's cool with that.
I'm out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So what they did, and this is back in the 80s, and it would be the same for hundreds of years. Basically, what they did, they compressed the sport down. They actually did it. They created it so it was something that became about a 4 or 5 hour one-day event. And now they've created something called 2020 Cricket, which is 20 overs, which I don't even quite understand, so I won't even try to explain it to you. But the thing is, they have a league now called the IPL. The way this has actually evolved over the last few years, the last 7-8 years, it's called the Indian Premier League. They had about 8 or 9 teams. This is a multi-billion-dollar franchise or a property now. They have hundreds of millions of rabid fans. And what they've created, Ricky, is the gateway for cricket. Whereas the old guard, kind of like with you buttoning the shirt up to the top and being a traditionalist, a lot of them were freaking out, thinking this is desecrating cricket. This is an insult. It's disparaging. It's going to kill the game. Where in fact, the exact opposite happened. It became the gateway to cricket, that you've got all these young fans. And what they've done, they brought the NFL in as consultants about 5 or 6 years ago, and I believe the NBA also. So they started to learn about what actually worked as far as making it more engaging, making it more dynamic, the way you actually see it live, and also more importantly, the way you actually create the content and deliver the content on any platform. So that is the sweet spot that they created with cricket. The other example, which you may know, is rugby. Now with rugby sevens is the Olympics, and they have these tournaments going around, and they're unbelievably popular. Basically 15-minute games, and you play three games within, and 7 people on a side. That's the rugby sevens. So less players, less time, and it's crazy popular. Like, these things sell out in big stadiums now very, very quickly. So beach volleyball did it as compared to traditional volleyball. So that is where the solution is. And when we created Rip Links, the kind of the simple way to talk about Rip Links, I know I mentioned 16th hole on steroids and all this other stuff that may seem like it's just this kind of this festival or this happening going off. But ultimately what we've done is exactly what cricket and rugby have done. We've compressed the gameplay down into a stadium that we've created. So it's 3 par 3 holes. It's an elegantly simple gameplay model. It's so both women and men can play at the same time. Got a shot clock going. The way we actually shoot it will be more like a Red Bull or an X Games type of an event. Like I said, you play 3 holes from different tee boxes, add up your score. If you're tied at the end, you go back to one of the tee boxes, crank the music up even louder, and it's closest to the hole. You move on. The other ones either go home or they go up. You have to go to a wild card round. So it's short and sharp. It's more like March Madness than it is 72-hole golf. So once again, to grow the game from a fan perspective, that's what we're looking to do with Rip Links. Not necessarily as other people are doing that we're bringing on the show that are growing the game from a recreational standpoint. And there's all kinds of great things going on there. So once again, looking at other sports to see what has worked, compressing things down and making it even more engaging, and it's worked. So that's what golf needs to do, and that's what our mission is to create it with Rip Links.
That's cool. Any prizes? Like you talk about like going home, like do you get prizes with Rip Links?
Oh, absolutely. Not only prizes, but one thing we've looked at, Ricky, too, if you look at the World Poker Tour model that we love also, the fact that story arc, that you can have the everyman or the every person actually be the one that's sitting at the final table. It's some dude that's actually been playing in his dorm room in his underwear for the last 3 months with a $20 buy-in, and he's made it all the way through. Next thing you know, he's trying not to freak out at the final table like he belongs there. And people are like, that could be me. That could be me. And ultimately what we're creating here with Rip Links, with those storylines, and this is off in the distance, we're not there yet, is got to get this thing off the ground and get brand awareness and have a couple of events first, of course. But that's the opportunity there, is to create those type of story arcs. The fact that you have a tour of regular people that are playing that are just below that PGA level, guys, we don't have the money for that. That's all we're looking at. But we're talking women on the Symmetra Tour, and I'm friends with a lot of them. Some guys on the web.com or even looking to get there. So there's tens of thousands of NCAA Div 1 players out there that are recently graduated, that are between 21 and 25 that have nowhere to play. Right, their careers are over. So we know that the talent is out there. The awesome personalities, once again, just like American Ninja Warrior, are there. And, it's a story that will tell itself.
So before we went live, I didn't tell you this was a half an hour show and it would fly by. We have like 2 minutes left. So all right. Sorry, you're going to have to go over because I've got a couple more questions before we jump to the back nine. Now, Tiger said last week, Tiger's been in the news left and right just because, he sneezes and he breaks the internet. So Tiger's back in the news. He's coming back next month. I'm excited because I can actually watch golf again. But he said a comment about a week ago that 8,000-yard courses are next. They're coming fast, right? The ball flies further than it ever has, and it has. There's no question that's changed. So not necessarily in your realm, but what are your thoughts on the golf ball technology? I mean, when Dustin Johnson can fly at 347 with a little bit of a cut down a fairway to put himself in position to get up and down for birdie, like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I don't hit it that far. You don't hit it that far. No offense, but I guarantee you don't hit it 347 in the air.
I do not.
But that being said, like, from where you sit, looking at growing the game and the things that you're doing that are outside of the norm, what do you think of comments like that, that Tiger and Jack are sitting there saying, hey, golf needs to do something about the technology and dial it back? Like, are you for biopurification? Like, just kind of overall, like, what are your thoughts on technology in the golf ball?
That's a great question. And I have spoke to this before, and I've written about this also, bringing more in the kind of the business side of things as far as, startup and innovation. And golf technology, as far as clubs, as far as the ball, as far as does it go farther, is it softer, all these things, it's not going to grow the game from the sense that people that aren't playing the game don't care about a 5% bump on performance. So that's not going to grow the game. And that's a fact. There's a book that I love called The Innovators Dilemma. And what the writer does in The Innovators Dilemma, he talks about what they call performance oversupply. The fact you've got more than what people want and more than what they need. And I think that groups like TaylorMade releasing clubs every 6 months, that was part of the problem. People don't need new. They don't need better. Everybody has what they need. You have such, few people, this tight little group that wants that. But to truly grow the game, I know that I talk to people. I've talked to thousands of millennials and young people that haven't played golf, and they've never once said, you know what, I would start playing golf if only the ball would go farther. And it's just not of interest to them. So that is not going to cross the chasm to get people from not playing golf to actually playing golf. Where I know you and I can talk about Topgolf forever, but one of the things that is impressive with them, over 8 million people played Topgolf last year. It's either last year or 2015, the data they have. And of that, almost half of those people had never swung a golf club before. So just that alone, that gateway for that. So coming through that funnel, you got that 4 million or so that never swung a golf club. Are all 4 million going to end up at a golf course? Absolutely not. But through that funnel, you may get 1, 2, or 5 or 10% of them. And those are good numbers as far as getting that through to people actually liking it enough that they'll end up on a golf course. So all those different things will actually help. But ultimately, the longer courses won't necessarily grow the game. Might be necessary at that pro level or that super elite level, but ultimately I don't think you'll need that. And I can get in that from a sustainability, being an architect and a sustainable designer, as far as the resources it takes already for water, maintenance, and fertilizer and everything else to take care of the course. Which with Rip Links, we don't have any of that. We just, like Cirque du Soleil, we build it, pack it up, then, and we take it to the next town. So yeah, bigger courses in my mind are not necessarily a good thing.
See, and I agree with that. And I think that there should be more of a push, especially in the United States, of playing the right set of tees. I almost think it should be mandated. So I was recently in Scotland, and I played the old course at St. Andrews, and they asked me on the first tee, they knew my handicap to even be able to get me the tee time. Right. They asked me on the first tee what your handicap is, and I confirmed, and they said, okay, you're playing this tee. It wasn't, no, I'm playing the tips. No, I don't get a choice. I play the tees that they tell me because of my handicap. And I think that, the club that I'm at, so we're 7,600 yards from our back tees, and that is a really, there are par fours that from the tees that I play, I'm hitting hybrid, where I'm hitting driver from the back tees, and I'm not even reaching the fairway. So it should be, in my opinion, almost forced based on your quality of play where you should play. So an 8,000-yard golf course isn't necessary. These guys on tour play the back tees, but the people that have an 8, 10, 12, 17, 22 handicap are playing the right set of tees for them, dictated by either the USGA or the golf course at hand. And that helps pace of play. That helps the enjoyment. I'm not going out there to struggle. Like, I don't want to go out there and have a hard time hitting driver hybrid in every par 4. Like, that's not my thing. And I think that there's no fix. There's no easy, like 8,000-yard courses are maybe U.S. Open courses, just for the fact like it'll be the first course to hit 8,000 yards. But I'm sorry, a 278-yard par 3 is not fun for me. Like, I don't hit my driver that far. So, I mean, guys on tour maybe, but glad that you and I kind of we agree with that.
Well, once again, you see what we're doing with golf. We're not making it bigger with Rip Links. We're compressing it down. We're taking all the best elements, the most awesome parts. Like, what do you see on a regular sports highlight show? Not on Golf Channel. Regular anything with golf. It's some guy making an 80 or woman making an 80-foot bomb, chipping in from out of a trap. Hole in one, getting the ball in the hole. Those awesome shots. You don't see highlights of someone actually hitting a layup on a par 5. That's not exciting. Now, so those are the interesting things that we're taking to embed into the experience.
I do want to see them struggle. Like, I'd love to see a PGA Tour or LPGA Tour event where they are like the winner is like 2 over. But
totally.
Like once, maybe twice, 3 times a year in major championships. But like at the same time, I don't like seeing guys go 18, 20, 22 under par. Like, yeah, I like seeing birdies, but I haven't watched a birdie in a long time because Tiger hasn't played, but that's another story. So first off, we've been talking for over 30 minutes, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. There is no question you have passion for this game. The quality of guests that you've had on your podcast are tops, like better than anything I've seen. So you keep doing that.
Thanks, man.
I'm going to keep watching that, and I'm glad that I got the chance to get you on the show to talk about your efforts here in Season 2. Before I let you go, we have this segment called The Back Nine. It's just 9 fun random questions, not about necessarily you or ModGolf Podcast, but you ready for your back 9?
Bring it on.
What is your home course? Where do you play the most golf? I mean, you're not as much of a golfer as some guests on the show, but do you play golf somewhere?
I do. Actually, it's one of the three municipal courses here in Vancouver. It's called Fraser View. We actually call it the Beth Page Black of Vancouver because it's actually the best of the three courses. And if anybody played it that played Beth Page, they'll go, no, it's not. But, we actually call it that. So actually, I quite like that course. It's, under $50 to play. I can usually get a tee time. And it's out in the sunshine afterwards, to have a beer on the few days that it's actually not raining here in Vancouver. So that's always nice.
Hey, it sounds like Southwest Florida. I can relate to that. Who is in your perfect foursome?
My perfect foursome. I would say Kelly Slater. I would say I haven't played with Shane yet, so I'll bring Shane along, and I'll actually bring my buddy Kelly James along too. There you go.
That sounds like a good foursome. Shane, make sure you let me know, and I'll caddy for you. So let's have a drink. Beer, wine, whiskey. What are you having? And if it's whiskey, it's Canadian whiskey.
Yes, actually, if it's Canadian, no. Actually, I'm a big single malt fan. I know you spent some time there. So there's a few. I like some of the peatier ones like Lefroy. I actually quite like that. A nice 12-year-old Macallan. I'm a fan of that too. Big fan of craft breweries here. Probably, I don't know, everywhere has it now that we have quite the vibrant craft brewery industry here where I live right down, close to downtown in Vancouver. There's lots of them. I can throw your wine glass and probably hit about 3 of them right now. So
let me empty it first.
I just sound like I'm an alcoholic. I like it all. It's like, yes, whatever you got.
So I think we just became best friends there because I was just in Scotland and it was a beer trip. I took an annual European beer trip, but it turned into a Scotch trip. Didn't make it to Islay. So next year on our beer trip, we're going to go spend 2 days in Islay because of single malt peaty scotches. So to that point, I can raise a glass and cheers to that. What golf ball are you currently playing?
I am playing I got a whole bunch of Volvic balls from the World Long Drive and also down at Major Series of Putting. That's the sponsor also. So I got a whole whack of free balls and I was just out the other day. So I used a bunch of them. Bubba's not using it anymore. So someone's got to use the balls up, right? So I do that. But typically I've actually used, it's going to sound like I'm plugging Callaway, but actually I've been using Chrome Soft lately.
Okay, I dig that. I like the new TaylorMade TP5. It's a fantastic golf ball. I'm this close to switching. My club fitter, who was just here in Naples 2 weeks ago, fitting me for some clubs, is recommending a Bridgestone golf ball. I got a new sleeve of the Vice golf ball. I got like 13 different types of golf balls on my desk right now. Like,
I'll
play this golf ball today. Yeah. What is your favorite golf movie? And if you say The Legend of Bagger Vance, this conversation is over.
No, you don't have to worry about that. That is not going to happen. Well, we were just talking about that on Golf Chat yesterday, back and forth, and it's almost, I gotta say, Caddyshack. Even my kids love it. It's just ridiculous. It still makes me laugh every time I watch it once a year. It seems like it's that pre Masters tradition now to kind of kickstart the golf season now. That even though Tin Cup is close for me, but I would have to say, Happy Gilmore's there too. I would say that all three are on the podium, but actually I will actually give the nod.
Caddyshack. All right, I'll allow that.
I'll give that the gold.
So where are you playing this weekend?
Sadly, I am not. See, I'm living that sad, ironic life of now that I'm kind of in the golf industry. I've never played less golf in the last 20 years. The other problem is, and one of the universal problems with golf is it does take a lot of time. And I don't have all my buddies that I was playing with about 5-10 years ago when I was playing 25, 30 rounds a year. And for me, that's quite a bit. Like it's more than the average person, that's for sure. Probably in the top, I would probably say in the top, probably 30 percentile, probably around that 70% range. So getting up there. So sadly, you're going to hate this. I played 3 rounds of golf this year. I know
3 rounds of golf this month. Are you kidding me?
We're not friends anymore, are we?
Oh, so yeah, we're still friends because you like Scotch. So,
and everybody keeps telling us, like, Colin, let's get together and play golf. I thought, got in the golf industry and meeting all these people, I was going to play all this free golf and all these awesome courses, and nothing. Because I'm doing flipping podcasts and designing surf parks all the time. It's like I got to stop doing this stuff. I got to play more golf.
Yeah, no kidding. # play more golf. What's your favorite PGA Tour major?
Masters.
Yeah,
without question. I will say I'm one of those that tails off. I get pumped up about the Masters, Jim Vance, the music. How can you get enough of that? And then the British Open, I'll get up early, even on the West Coast, even earlier for that to watch that. And then I do tail off. I watch at least the third and fourth rounds of the U.S. Open, and the PGA has always been a struggle. I usually get busy and get a little bit bored. I don't watch as much. But now that they're flipping that around, that maybe I'll be watching more of that. So the answer is the Masters, but without question.
So if you've seen an episode of this show, you know what question's coming next. Be really careful how you answer this, because I like you. Do you think Tiger breaks Jack's record? Why or why not? If I need to take my headphones off while you answer this, I can. The
answer is no.
Well, all right, bye.
And I knew you were going to ask that question, and I knew what I was going to say. You know what? Tiger has been phenomenal for golf, and maybe there is a next chapter. I will say I don't know. It does kind of grate me a little bit that so many people, you talked about earlier before the show, I think before we got on, is, he sneezes and it's big coverage. Not that they need to move on yet, but I think it's holding the game back in some ways. In some ways, we won't get too political about this, but I think your president playing a lot of golf. There's probably a lot of young people that probably now think golf isn't so cool because he's out there doing that rather than doing his job. But back to Tiger for a second, that if he does create that story, he comes back and gets some momentum, I think it would be awesome. I think it would be great, and I hope that he does. But if I was in Vegas right now and putting some money down, my friend, they'd have to be pretty good odds for me to actually put down some hard-earned cash on that bet.
All right. I don't like your answer, but I'm going to allow it because everything else tonight has been pretty positive. So I'm going to allow it.
Man.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome. I hope that we can figure out a time to get together and actually play some golf. That'd be nice to get you on the golf course. I mean, we are about as far away from each other as possible. I'm in Southwest Florida, and you're on the northwest coast of the U.S. and Canada over there. But your final question of your hashtag Wednesday Match Play presented by Eat Sleep Golf is, what's next? You're kind of just getting started, and I mean, you're off to the races. So what's next for you?
What's next? Well, this is a really nice segue into your you wanting me to spend some quality time with you there, Ricky. That now that this has got some traction here, and we're looking at season 3. Like I said, we got a couple more episodes to get in the can here and finish up in early December. Our episode of covering the major series of putting, the MSOP Championships. I'm just doing post-production on that now. That'll be released in a couple of weeks' time, and kind of excited about revealing the stories of that one. Then we're going to take a little break over the holidays, and then we're going to ramp up again for season 3. And the segue here is that I am going to be at the PGA Merchandise Show again this year. So I'll be there in January. I've arranged with them. They've asked me to create what we're calling the Golf Disruptors panel. So so part of their educational series there, I am going to have 4 or 5 of my guests. I've got 3 of them locked down. I won't name any names right now, that I've had on as guests of the podcast that are going to be at the show. So we're doing 1 hour there. It's going to be on Wednesday, the 24th at 3:30 till 4:30. Don't know the size of the room. Hopefully some people will come out. and so we'll be doing that. So I'll be there all week. So, hey, man, we can hook up at that time to do that. We're doing lots of other stuff next season. So I'm starting to do some speaking engagements. And I'm just trying to grow the game one conversation at a time. And we're still pushing hard, building those partnerships to get Rip Links going. Hopefully we'll get a 2018 event that everybody can see. But as you can imagine, it takes a lot of work. I just found out that MSOP, what they've done there, took them 6 years to get from the inception, the idea of it, to actually get to there. So these things take time. So, and we're still cranking away there. So there you go. Hopefully I'll get a chance to see you in January, man.
That's awesome. Well, I'm 3 hours southwest of there. So if I can't get up to Naples or get up from Naples to Orlando, let's figure out a way to at least meet halfway for a beer or something. My goodness. I mean, you can't come to the Sunshine State and not hang out, I mean, we got some good golf here in the Sunshine State. But hey, Colin, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was awesome. We could talk for hours. You're always welcome back on this show. Anytime you have something new coming, maybe we even bring it back and just talk Rip Links only, not talk about the podcast as much. So we didn't hit on as much as Rip Links as I wanted to. So maybe that's a good chance for you to come back on season 3. So this episode of the hashtag Wednesday Match Play is going to be all over the place. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on iTunes. It'll be on Google Play. It's It's going to be on Facebook, Twitter, and the Google Plus Golf community. And speaking of the Google Plus Golf community, 26,000 members strong. So let's get you over there, in there, and active there, because like you need another social network. But
I am, and I'm posting there all the time.
I know. I just want to. I love seeing the content that you're creating. So that's a place that is near and dear to my heart, and it's to a point where I don't even post as much on my own anymore as I used to, because I used to have to struggle to get people to engage, and now it's just I kind of sit back and let everybody else post and engage. So you can always feel free to share anything and everything that you want in there, and it's just been awesome getting to know more about you and your efforts. You keep doing what you're doing, keep your head down, and let's focus on just growing the greatest game ever played. And as always on the hashtag Wednesday Match Plays, you have to remember to eat, sleep, golf.